Welcome creative friends, Ed and Edie here from The Creativity Activist. Today I'm bringing you some fabric creativity rather than paper creativity, and it comes in the form of these tassels. So I've been making them en masse for a fiction festival that I'm going to this weekend. So this says the Lucky Sisters and is inspired by this book cover here, and it has a little butterfly like the book cover, and then I'm putting some charms on. So I love books, a little heart and the flower, with the thought that this is like a bag tassel to put on your book bag. So this one is for the Lucky Sisters, and then these others are all on mainly one theme for one author, but there's a couple of points of difference. So this one here I'm making for a book that I've read electronically, but I've bought a special edition on the weekend, so I wanted to give the author a little tassel as well. So this is the Nevermore bookstore series, so in silver. So this says Never and More, and some little beading on the end there. So these are going to follow a bit of a theme. They all have this I love books, some sort of heart. And this is a raven, because the book has a very famous raven in it, and a little rose, and some purple, because there's a touch of purple in the cover. So that one there's done on silver. This one here is done on silver as well, and is actually for my friend. This author was meant to be coming to the conference, but she's no longer coming. I don't read this style of book. It's like, I'm not going to get the name right. It's not paranormal, I don't think, but yeah, otherworldly. So this author is called Renee Rose. So there's some little red roses on there, and then there's lots of shifters. She reads a lot of shifter type books, my friend. So this is a wolf shifter series. So it's got a couple of wolves on there, and then the moon, and a little rose for the, or a couple of little extra roses for the author. So I've made that for my friend, even though her fave author's not coming anymore. I thought that would be nice. And then breaking off from the fabric tassels, I made this retro hotel room key tassel for one of the authors, because I've previously given her one of these tassels, and she has a new book coming out, so I thought I'd give her this to commemorate the new book. So just some beading around there, a little butterfly. And the book cover's purple. Don't know much else about the book. It is part of a series, so there we go, that's for that. And then all of these other tassels are to do with one book series for an author who's coming, and yeah, I've made some to give, one for me, one for the author, and one for my book buddy. And then the rest of these are to find people who also love the series and to share the love. So this particular series has been re-released with 5 different coloured books. So I've represented the 5 different colours of the books. And then I've made miniature versions of the books along this part of the tassel here. So 4 of the books are out. The 5th one's not out, so I couldn't scan that. But I've made tiny little versions of the books by scanning the covers and building those little books. And then along the chain, everything to do with loving the books and things that the books represent. There's a little cottage and Paris and an aeroplane. And these are contemporary romance novels, these ones. Very contemporary. So some little hearts along there. And then the author's surname is Swan, so all of these have a swan on them. And this says Miles High Club. That's the name of the series. Little heart and tiny little dangles. So this one's the one I made for me in black and silver. And then this one is the one I made for the author, which has gold hardware. So it's pretty similar, but obviously I'm just using a combination of things in my stash and things that I've purchased. So there's the swan, and I've made another Miles High Club there, and then I've repeated the book series along that dangle there. And then for my book buddy, her favourite book in the series is called The Takeover, so I've made one with The Takeover, and that book but in a little bit of a bigger format, and the Eiffel Tower and little trinkets. She's a gold person, so that suits her. And then along the base here are the ones that I've made for new friends, let's say. I have done some of them a little bit differently, but in general terms, I've done them by book, thinking that people might have a favourite for the book. And then this one here they all have the swan on them. Some of them have the initials of the main characters, and they'll all have the book that they represent and things about the book along the little spine there. So I've repeated that in gold and then in silver. So the swan and the initials, so it sort of follows a bit of a theme. And then doing the same across the blues with the golds. Really enjoyed finding things in my stash to include, and then obviously buying some new things because it's always a good excuse to buy some new things. The purple book's number 3. Let's have a look at that one in silver. I've had these in my stash for ages, these blingy things, and I've now used a lot of them on here, so I'm kind of feeling a bit like I need to buy some more. And then these ones here represent the third book. The only thing I'll say is I specifically bought some Spanish charms for this, and do you think I can find them? No, they've fallen down a crack somewhere. They literally only arrived last week, so if I do find those before the event, I'll be popping them on. Anyway, something a little bit different. Love making a dangle, and this is my way of saying to my book community that we love books, and let's dress up our book bags. Different point of view on my creativity today. One of the things I do outside of paper crafting, but kind of mixing in all the beading. Love the beading. Hopefully these are well received. I had a great time making them. They took forever, but it was an awesome process, and I'm looking forward to sending them off to their new homes. Hope this makes you think about what you're doing in your creative space and how you can apply your skills to different types of creativity. That's my jam. Hope it's inspired you today. Enjoy.